Hello and welcome to The Art of Aging, which is part of the Abundant Aging podcast series from United Church Homes. On this show, we look at what it means to age in America and in other places around the world with positive and empowering conversations that challenge, encourage, and inspire everybody, everywhere to age with abundance. Today, we are pleased to welcome Ted Fisher to the show. And Ted is somebody that I wanted to get on the show for a long time, given his really amazing story in the aging and longevity space, particularly creating solutions that engage older audiences through play. Ted, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here, Mike.
Awesome. And I got to read your bio here, man, because it is lengthy, but I want people to know who you are. Ted.
My mother wrote it, just so you know. Right? My mother.
Well, hey, for Ted's mom, this is what Ted's done, okay? Ted has spent his career working with leading collaborative teams committed to achieving positive financial and social impact. As CEO of Ageless Innovation, Ted is focused on accelerating the growth and impact of the Joy for All brand, which we'll get to, and which we at United Church Homes have been using and enjoying. That he and his former Hasbro team have spun out and acquired from Hasbro, and we're going to get into that story too. He joined Hasbro in 2015 as the Vice President of Business Development to help lead the identification and execution of new growth platforms, primarily focused in the health and wellness space. At Hasbro, Ted led the launch of Hasbro's Joy for All brand in 2015, which I like to call the robotic pets, but I know it's more than that, all right? Which is the company's first product line developed specifically for older adults. Prior to Hasbro, he held executive level positions at Fisher Consulting, ConnectEDU, Bay Capital Advisors, One Neck IT Services, and Duro Industries. He's a smarty pants. He holds a BA from Boston College, double majoring in economics and philosophy, which is that's a heck of a combination.
Yeah,
he wrote a lot of papers, and is a graduate of the program for management development at Harvard Business School. No one's ever heard of that school, by the way. Yeah. His greatest accomplishments are his 34-year marriage to his wife, Lisa, their 3 adult children, and his new granddaughter. So congratulations on that, Ted. Again, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, finance into the grandfather thing, my favorite title so far, by far. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, that's great. And I'm glad I got through that because, you got a great history in business development. And look, this is what I love to open up the show with. You could be doing a lot of things, man. You got, what has led you into this world of aging? Why are you so passionate about the aging space?
Yeah, it's a great question. And thank you again for having me on. And, I have appreciated and watched what you do and United Church Homes and their mission. And it's just so aligned with who we are as well. And so, you and I see each other quite a bit on the road. And I always enjoy our time together. So the chance to have a chat with you today is fantastic. So really interestingly, I say all the time, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and that's the way I describe it. My wife describes it as I can't keep a job. So it's really all perspective, right? And so one of the things I did a lot of early stage, companies and startups before Hasbro, and friend of mine was the CEO of the company. We had this really brief conversation one night, and he then called me the next day and said, I got an idea. And that's kind of how the conversation started. And honestly, never in my life did I think I'd work at a public company. For mostly 30 years of my life, I had been either my own boss or the founder or, in some senior position. And so, but the opportunity to go to this amazing company, which was right in my backyard in Rhode Island where I lived, and the idea of this new business group was, was really about, being an entrepreneur inside of a $5-6 billion, public company, which was pretty enticing for someone who fancies himself to be an entrepreneur. And we had really a blank canvas there. And as we started to explore, really the mandate was to try and leverage Hasbro's assets in new markets and new channels, right? So they didn't need to hire me to figure out another toy in the kids' toy aisle. They were pretty good at that. And so, as we dove into this idea and the reason we chose health and wellness, because all the data pointed to the fact that health and wellness has all these great programs and data, and they're just terrible at engaging people into things that are great for them, right? Or even helping people know that they exist. And I thought Hasbro's real assets, despite all the brands and how great they were at, at creating toys and entertainment, their ability to engage and gamify and, make meaningful connections. I felt like those two things married up so well, the health and wellness piece and what Hasbro was good at. And so fast forward a bit, as we started to look at this blank canvas, we were exploring what are the things that, maybe in the past in Hasbro's history, had some relevance to what we were exploring. So we were looking for unintended end uses, unintended end users of products. And we actually found, this data about 20 some years ago. It was a product that was initially designed for 48-year-old girls. And it was
Wait, 4 to 8-year-old girls, not 48-year-old girls.
Yeah, 4 to 8-year-olds,
Thank you,
correct.
Art.
I don't think they have that category anymore, but that was the category at the time. I don't think they designate that way anymore, but it was called 4 to 8-year-old girls, 4 to 8-year-old girls. And so, and about 20% of the reviews of this product, it was an animatronic toy, were mom not buying it for their daughter, but buying it for an aging loved one. And then writing these reviews about how this toy product was having this really meaningful impact. And so that was the key insight and the first time that we thought about the aging space. So it was a long preamble to your question, but as we started to explore this space, it literally every single person, we started going to assisted living, independent living, memory care, anybody who would kind of let us in the door to explore, are we onto something here? And what we found were two things that literally hit you over the head. One, every single older adult you talked to wanted more fun, joy, and play in their life.
Yep.
No one had said, I don't want to have fun anymore.
Exactly.
No one had decided an age where they want to stop having fun. Yet society and culture, we kind of, we get to a certain place and people tell us we're too old for that. And so we've been trying to dispel that stigma since we started this thing. So that was one. And then two, there was this incredible need for interactive companionship. And there were a lot of people, not a lot at that time, 10 plus years ago, trying to figure that out. But there was, what we were hearing from people was it wasn't technology. It wasn't those. It was realism. It was something they wanted. So as we started to explore, we showed older adults a ton of different things, from arts and crafts to technology, and we showed them these animatronic toys. And far and away, this idea that you gave something and got something back. You gave a pet, you got a meow, you got a bark, you got whatever, was just resonated with people. And so the last point on your first question is the day that I knew that this was a space that we needed to be in was we have this place at Hasbro called the Fun Lab. And the Fun Lab typically is a place where, it's the glass wall mirrored. And on one side, it looks like a living room or a bedroom where you can set it up for any sort of scenario. And behind it are all the designers and engineers. And they watch typically children come in to play with new concepts, or, they put a bunch of things out, see what resonates, what needs explanation, what doesn't. It's a whole, and in order to get into the Fun Lab, you have to do a multi-page write-up, and it's a very scientific sort of place, but it is the coolest place ever because you get to see the reaction of people on the first time. So we brought a group of older adults for the first time ever into the Fun Lab and showed them all these things. And as we watched the incredible joy and happiness that was happening, I was trying to figure out what is it that, and the woman who runs the Fun Lab, this is what she does every day of her life. So she has the best job in the world. She came up to me, she goes, this is the best day we've ever had here. And I'm trying to figure out why is that? And here's why. As I kind of watched it going, and I had watched many Fun Labs in the past, when children come into that room, they expect to play. Like immediately, it's not no one thinks about it. It just is what it is. Like there's toys, there's kids, there's play. The older adults weren't just having fun playing. They were so happy and excited that someone was thinking about them in this way, that there was this it was, I can't even explain it. I wish you were there. Like it was the most fun day. And so, if I wasn't already passionate about this population, that day sealed the deal. And so, as we, explored it a little further, it just became more and more obvious that there was almost nobody out there addressing this need for fun, joy, and play in the older adult space.
Well, and also what you're doing here, Ted, is Hasbro they design with their customers, and you're one of the design. You're one of the, earliest examples. People who are designing with older people, I mean, that's a big difference, right? I mean, it makes all the difference when making something like this successful. Like, is it sticky? Will people engage? Will people come back?
Yeah, totally. And one of the things I'll say about it, I was given this really great team of people to work with at Hasbro. So I get in there, I had like 15 people and designers and engineers and marketers and all sorts of folks. And I'd never been in a consumer CPG type of business before. That wasn't my forte. But what the only thing I'll say I was smart enough to do is shut my mouth and listen. And what I heard from folks is, listen, we're expert on kids. We know nothing about older adults. We need to ask them. And from the first day, we said, tell us, help us design. What do you want? So when I look at the features of our products, I can remember the meetings where someone said, you got to have the paw pads on the cats that are a little scratchy. Like it meant something to somebody, like that level of detail where,
Absolutely.
I'm running a business, so I got to be cost conscious, and scruffy, scratchy paw pads cost a lot more than just like making a piece of felt or something. So, but they wanted realism, and so my team, was amazing at listening. Our whole design philosophy is listen, do something, show it to them, take the feedback, iterate, go back and do it again until they say, boy, this really looks like a real cat, or this game is really fun, or whatever it might be. And so, older adults have been part of our design, not just our design philosophy, they've been the designers really, which
Yeah, and
is,
by the way, you just put a lot of human-centered design consultants out of business because oh my goodness, yeah, you work with people, you ask them what they want, you understand their lived experience, you take their suggestions, you reiterate, you come back again and again and again. And I just want to say, for anybody out there in the industry that has been trapped in a room with me and has had to listen to my speeches on innovation or whatever, I always give this speech about ROI, from an innovation perspective. And I always say that there's three types of ROI. There's one where it basically improves your efficiency or improves your profitability or whatever. And then I always say it has to be a significant amount, not just a 5% increase in efficiency, like a 10x, whatever. And then there's the type of ROI where you learn more about the customer, you learn more about someone's experiences, and you use those insights to create a better offering. And the third thing is if you take this away from me, I'll kill you ROI. And what that is, and I always and the truth for all robotic pets that we have at United Church Homes that we use very much in our memory care units. Okay, the staff, I don't know by what percent, you probably know, but I don't know by what percentage it decreases agitation or improves sleep or whatever. I mean, all I know is that our residents love them, and our staff, and the staff is like, if you take these away, I'm quitting.
yep.
And so that alone is just, it's one of the very few things I've seen that has that stickiness and that impact. And when you sort of draw from that very first time in that controlled play environment, and now you think about everybody that's out in these other buildings or contexts or whatever, I mean, that must make you feel pretty good, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really does. And thank you. Like testimonials like that, when you hear someone talk about, the impact, but you've seen it firsthand, and
Yeah.
your staff and your teams have seen it firsthand. Um,
Including the tactileness of the paw pads. I mean,
right.
we get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, well, what we heard early on is this need for interactive companionship needs to be coupled with realism, right? So the idea of a cat and a dog and a bird and things that they're familiar with, like if they don't really look or act like it, then that you're not fulfilling the promise. One, and if folks are telling you that a cat has tapered whiskers versus straight whiskers, little things like that, like there are screws you receive that pull the whiskers through, and so that. And it's really easy to do straight whiskers because it's just one clamp that pulls it through. Taper whiskers are like different lengths, So we had to, our manufacturing partner had to design a machine to do so that's the level of detail, the craziness. But what we hear all the time is what you just said is, when people, and there's a lot of technology obviously inside of the pets that, are sensors and motors and other things that respond to the touch and the sound or whatever is interacting. But the reality is it's pretty simple. Because you've seen it. You pull it out of the box, and somebody takes it, they name it their old pet's name, Rusty or whatever it might be, and so the magic starts. And so you don't have to explain it to people. You don't have to say, oh, this is a cat. You pet it here, and obviously, in memory care and some other areas, there may be some more instruction needed. But typically, it's just a reminiscence piece of something that's very familiar.
Yeah.
And that's been, I think, part of the magic. And, we've got, over 600,000 of these out in the world today, and, in about 30 countries. And I can tell you, I hear stories like the one you just told, and it does not get old, not one day. And someone called me yesterday and said, I got to tell you the story. And it was somebody that I knew or had gifted it this out, and you listen and you almost have tears in your eyes because you're like, this fairly simple, fun, joyful product can have, a meaningful impact in someone's life. And, quite honestly, I can't ask for much more than that. Right.
But here's the thing, this is a growing market. All right. I can't think of any, and I've said this on the show before, and I've said this in the rooms where people are trapped with me. I can't think of anything more predictable in terms of future market demand than climate change and aging. We're talking about the first baby boomer turning 80 in 2026. We're talking about more people over the age of 65 by 2034 than under the age of 18.
Right.
But you took this outside of Hasbro. You started Ageless Innovation with this product. How the heck did you pull that off?
Yeah. So it's another great story. I'll keep it brief, but inside. So in the beginning, in 2015, when I got to Hasbro, I had this really it was its own little environment that I was given a lot of autonomy, which is something that I said, in order to come here, I need to have that, because self-admittedly, what Hasbro wanted to do was they wanted to harness the innovation that was happening inside, and they're not patient, right? They're a public company. And so it's a lot easier to buy $100 million brand, turn it into a $300 million brand than it is to start something at zero and get it to a $100 million brand. And so the idea was, and this isn't the only thing that I worked on inside there. There were other things, other products on the product line that we did this thing, Nerf Energy, in the kids' healthy, active fitness space. That was really cool. But my passion and my desire was, to try and focus as much of my energy and time on the older adult population. And that was getting harder and harder to do inside of Hasbro. And, compounding that, 3+ years in, we become a brand as opposed to this new innovation. Now we're fighting for marketing dollars. I got to get everything passed through legal. And I scared the heck out of legal. I mean, honestly,
this is a knowing laugh, by the way.
Yeah, look, they know child privacy, COPA, FERPA, they know all those things so well. HIPAA, they didn't even know how to spell it, let alone, So I was so excited. Like, we're going into the healthcare space, and so yeah, I'll give you an example. We won in 2016. We won our first award. It was the Dementia Smart Award, which SMART is an acronym for simple, meaningful, And so we won this great award. And the guy comes to Hasbro, presents it to me, the CEO, the president of the company, like we all, and everybody thinks this is great. Like, it's wonderful. We're a year in and we're winning awards. And so, now I'm trying to buy search words, as part of our marketing strategy. And, so I go to legal and I say, listen, here's the list. You have to get everything. Everything gets approved. It has like everything. So you have to have, your search words approved. And I have dementia in there. And they're like, oh, you can't use dementia. I'm like, well, why? They're like, well, I said, we won the Dementia Smart Award. I said, I just want to make mention of the Dementia Smart Award. They're like, oh, that's so great. Congratulations. No. I mean, it's literally like and to them, there was a claim or a potential for, and I totally get it.
And by the way, they're doing their jobs. They are doing their jobs.
I don't blame it at all, but my whole premise is that I can grow this business into a healthcare, sort of business at Hasbro, a little different than the typical, which is my mandate. And it just got harder and harder because of those type of things. And they knew it. They loved what we were doing. They loved the halo of, and we had this idea at Hasbro about expanding share of life. And so, if you looked at the share of life that Hasbro, was really catering to with Dungeons and Dragons, they had really up into the 40s, and, they had a lot of sort of, really cool entertainment focused stuff but But up where I was sort of playing, I sort of expanded that share of life, and they thought that was great. But in order to grow, we were going to need to do certain things that were just going to be against the grain. And then when it came to, marketing budgets, if My Little Pony missed their numbers, heads were rolling. If I missed my numbers, no one even knew, right? So because it was so small and it was so, but so the people at US marketing were like, well, I got to use this money over here. I can't, and so we were fighting for those things. So as all this started to unravel, I kind of met with the president. I said, listen, there's a real opportunity here for all the reasons you just said. I showed them the population demographics. You said, like, this could be a big part of the business. I said, I think it's going to be harder to do here than I anticipated. And I said, maybe there's an opportunity that every new innovation at Hasbro doesn't have to live at Hasbro to benefit Hasbro. And so, he's like, come with you. And I had been an investment banker in a previous iteration of my career. And so I said, I think there's an opportunity, maybe spin this thing out and maybe, create its own. And for the first time that I know of, and that anybody that, was around at that time knew of, it was the first time they had ever done this. And so we came up with a deal that works. And my team, I got to take most of my team with me. And so my co-founders were the folks who have been part of Joy for All since day one. We left in, March, April timeframe of 2018, and, sort of consummated the deal like May of 2018, over 6 years ago, started Ageless Innovation, and then acquired all Joy for All brand and assets and all of that. And then we were able to focus 100% older adults and their families. So,
but you still have that handshake relationship with Hasbro, right? I mean,
great relationship. And, the games business is another proof point of, how that is.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we talk about that, because I like that as when you're talking about the lifetime share of customer, or however you described it, we can take a look at, let's say, the game of life, which, by the way, I love. One of our earlier guests, Richard Eisenberg, who's just a shout out for our annual symposium that happened this year through our Ruth Ross Parker Center, and Rich spoke again. But he used to point out that, hey, notice how the game of life ends at retirement.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But through that now you're starting to see a lot of these classic games coming back under your stewardship and redesigning that gaming experience for the older audience, nostalgia, for intergenerational gameplay. And that's a really neat way of kind of, marrying those two worlds of younger, older together, and maybe continuing that value for Hasbro in these new markets. I mean, was that kind of the calculus that you thought about?
Yeah, and I'd love to take credit. So we had come out with a couple of our own games that are card-based games based on reminiscence therapy, and we just sort of launched them in 2022. And Hasbro approached us and said, "Hey, listen, we're seeing this huge uptick in the use of our traditional iconic board games by older adults, but we're getting some feedback. They're not as easy to play. They're not quite as as fun as they could be. And this was the Hasbro team came and said, listen, we think there's a big opportunity to reimagine these for older adults, and we think you should do it." It took us, 4 seconds to say, yes, we agree. And so literally, so that meeting led to, all right, how do we, work through a deal here, which we did. And then, a year later, we launched in August of 20, so just about a year ago now, we launched our first 3 reimagined Hasbro games. So Scrabble Bingo is one, Game of Life Generations is another. So Game of Life, which we did modify a bit, and then Trivial Pursuit Generations, which has been an incredible.
Yeah, the Trivial Pursuit game is a lot of fun, and it's a really great way to kind of, because the Trivial, you've got the questions for the younger folks, you got questions for older folks, and then they can kind of share their, like music and stuff like that. That's I thought that was really cool.
Well, and honestly, it's feedback from older adults. So when we went into older adults and we said, so what makes this not as much fun anymore for you? And they said, there's no questions for us. It's all pop culture, and I used to be able to play that, but now I don't know that stuff. The stuff that's at so our version on every card is a question for the greatest generation: Boomer, Gen X, Millennial, and Gen Z. And so there's no subject matter expert that's going to run the table. Where if you can play as whatever generation you want. I actually am better at the greatest generation than I am a Boomer, even though I am a Boomer. And so
I know every Depeche Mode song out there, man. So I'll kill it on the Gen X stuff.
Right? I'm an old soul, and so, but like there's a fitness question that the answer to the greatest generation is Jack LaLanne. And for the millennial, I think it's Taibo. And for the Gen X, it's Zumba or so, but the question's all, as you're playing intergenerationally, everybody can play and have fun. And that's a little bit of what's missing. And that's been our number one show. That one's really done quite well. And it is super fun. But the Scrabble Bingo is great. We created a 3-in-1 game. The Scrabble Pass game is sort of a card-based game that has all the benefits of Scrabble, but you play it in like 15 minutes. Because one of the things we heard from older adults is Scrabble is takes a little bit too long. And we did some modification of, things like font sizes on cards and size of tiles and easy to pick up and those kind of things. So the tactile things were obvious, but for us, it's more about what's fun. Is this fun to play? Like, tell us what would make this better. And we're coming out, our newest game's coming out in, I guess it'll be October. It's coming out and it's awesome.
Yeah. Don't spill any secrets, but
I know my marketing team would kill me because it's embargoed, but I will tell you this. So we had, when we were designing the game, we had 2 different groups of folks one afternoon to come in and play. And so one was 4 or 6 or 8 people that did not know each other. And that answered a questionnaire and ended up getting selected. And then we had couples that knew each other come in and play, because that's a very common sort of, you play games with your friends, and we want to see, what's the difference between these. And the group that knew each other playing this game, I honestly was just watching and laughing harder than I've ever laughed in my life. Husband and wife throwing cards at each other,
again, your marketing team, man. We don't
I'm not going to say what it is, but
nothing. But
it was so much fun, and it really was. And so you just get the idea is at the core of what we do, right? Our purpose, stated purpose. I don't talk about mission and vision as much as I do purpose. Our purpose is to reimagine how we positively live and age together by unleashing the power of play. And what we've seen is that on its most basic level, when people are playing, they're happy. And when they're happy, they feel better. And it's just that simple, right? We don't overcomplicate it. None of us are doctors. We don't know, I'm not prescribing anything. But, this initiative that we have, Reach Out and Play, where we're going all over the country and doing these game events, it's palpable. Like, you go to these things and you cannot not have fun. It's just impossible. Like, it's just, the energy is great. People are interacting. I've told this story before, but one of the unexpected things at the last, one of the events that I went to is we have this matching card game. And most of the people that came into this senior center came in on some type of walking, aid or mobility device,
it's
whatever
just a device. Yeah.
By halfway through the game, then, without even knowing it, all of them were standing up around the table because they didn't want to be the one that couldn't reach over and match the card. So you look at this table of people that literally came in on, mobility devices of some sort, wheelchairs, walkers, and none of them are using it, and they're all standing up around the table because they want to. And I'm like, what an incredible added benefit. We didn't even think of anything like that. But if you had said, everybody stand up now, we're going to get a little exercise, half the group would have been like, yeah. But to be part of the action and to play and to have fun, they're up and at it. It was awesome.
That's what I wanted to close out on, though, Ted, because, I think that, what I'm noticing here is you just have this spidey sense for something that's going to work. And you're sort of seeing immediately when I think about what you've just described, I said, man, you got a whole world of rehab therapy out there. You've got occupational, physical, speech therapy, all of the different applications, adherence programs, ways to get people to engage in the first place. I mean, what are you most, if you're thinking about the growth, I don't want any future products. I don't want anything, but what are you curious about in terms of market opportunities as we look, as this age wave is happening and as we kind of look towards the future?
Yeah. So, 2 levels of that. So the first level is, we constantly look at, the platform that we've built that's, gotten pretty widely accepted, and how do we enhance and improve that, right? So to me, AI, connectivity, all those things, they're all great esoteric things out here, but I'm only interested in if they can improve the experience for our end user, right? So I think there's opportunity there. But I'm not going to tell you that I'm doing an AI pet for the sake of saying AI. And from Ageless Innovation, we're already AI. I don't have to worry about it. But
you used that one before. Thank you for using it.
Once or twice I've used that one. But the reality is, like, I know it's the rage. I know everybody wants to say they got an AI product, and maybe I do. And we just went through the AARP Tech Collaborative Accelerator, and that was part of the exploration, was sort of what does version 2.0 of the pet look like. So if I think forward, what I hope is that on that platform, we're enhancing the user experience. You know, if there's the possibility of benefiting other, you know, stakeholders by, you know, whatever it might be, some passive, you know, data or other things. But I never want to do anything that's going to interfere with the end user experience with our product, because that's the magic that I talked about earlier. And if we can't enhance that, it's not happening. So that's one thing. Two, you know, our idea for Reach Out and Play is not a moneymaker for us at all. Like, there's no revenue stream associated with it. It's a movement. And for us, it's something we thought about way before COVID. We spent a year and a half designing it pre-COVID, and we're going to launch it in March of 2020. Swear to God, not true story. And I didn't think something called Reach Out and Play was going to be a very good idea at the beginning of COVID. So we put it on the shelf. And then with the advent of the Hasbro relationship with the games, it sort of was a great opportunity to take it off the shelf and rethink it a little bit. But we had done pilots already in Rhode Island, bringing older adults and, you know, school age children together playing. So the idea was, we've got to find ways to bring people together to engage and play. And the results were incredible. Like, you know, we had done, I think we had done 15 events in Rhode Island as part of the pilot pre-COVID. And you know, the kids had amazing experience. The older adults had amazing experience. And we were really tracking, like, how can we make this better? How can we do it? So for us, if I look out in the future, to me, if this movement takes hold and we can take play, because I think play has just such incredible powers that people don't take advantage of. Like, just, if you had ever told me 10 years ago that in a memory care, you know, sort of community where we had agitated older adults who were difficult in transition, and instead of giving a psychotropic medication, you gave them a pet and it made them happy and joyful and they went without issue, I would have been like, yeah, I'm not so sure. But I've seen it now many times, right? And so, you know, I would love to think I was that smart, but I'm not. But we're pretty good at following, you know, sort of the insights. And just, you know, if that simplicity of something, when you think about it, with all the side effects of, you know, medications and all those kind of things, and it's not going to work for everybody, but if it works for some, you know, significant percentage of the population, that's fantastic. So my goal is more fun, joy, and play to have, you know, I always say every day, I start every, how are we amplifying impact? That's the mantra here. That's what we live to amplify impact.
Ted Fisher, the man with the most fun job in America. Thank you for being on this podcast, but you're actually not off the hook yet, my friend. I'm sorry. You know, we always ask our guests 3 questions about their own experience with aging. Mm-hmm. And may I ask this of you, sir?
Absolutely. Of course.
Before we do, where can people find you?
Yeah. So joyforall.com, joyforall.com is our site. You can see videos and testimonials and products there. We're available on places like Amazon and other retailers as well. So those are the easiest places to find our stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. And again, just we've had a terrific experience with the United Church Homes, and thanks again. So question number 1, Ted, when you think about how you have aged, what do you think has changed about you or grown with you that you really like about yourself?
Yeah, so I think, you know, it's a great question. I watch your podcast, so I knew this was coming. So
thank you and my mom for watching the podcast. But go ahead. Yeah.
Personally, I get it. You know, I did a TEDx talk, and I think it's now gotten 22,000 views. I'm like, Mom, how have you had that much time? And by the way, the number may be 10,000. It may not be 20. I don't even know. So anyway, still a lot of reviews, and I'm sure that 9,000 of my mother. But I think, you know, the thing that I find the most, and it's interesting now, leading this company is the most fun thing I've ever done. I just, it is a joyful, like, you can do some good. You got a big business opportunity. Like, it's so cool. So I think it's perspective. is really the thing that I look at the most. Like the way I handled things 20, 30 years ago and the way I handle things today are so different. And it's, it's not like I'm old and I have all this wisdom, but I do have some, and I have some, some scars and, and some wounds and things that, have helped shape how I handle, because as you run a business, like it seems like I have the most fun job in America, but this time of year we're building inventory for big fourth quarter, cash flows, like it's got all the elements of the pain in the neck that that other companies have. But in dealing with those type of issues, I think, the perspective that I have and learning from those who sort of come before me in terms of, that progression, I think is great. And I think, that if I, one of the things that I like about where I've never not thought about exercising. I've never thought that I don't think about myself as getting older. I mean, I just, I'm continuing to be who I want to be, and all the things that I did 20 years ago, I'm doing at a better degree now than I was then.
Yeah, but that leads into the second question, though. What has surprised you the most about you as you've aged?
Yes, I think it's my continued drive, passion. The again, I used to start almost every talk that I did. I'd ask people for show of hands, who's decided at what age you want to stop playing? Somebody just raise your hand if you've got a number for it.
I'm not raising my hand. So
Yeah, no one is. There's a zero. And so far I've done it 100 times, a zero, right? Because I think like I'm a grandfather. Right. So I just ran a Boston Marathon with my son 2 months ago, whatever, April, whatever it was, which is my 20th marathon, my 11th Boston Marathon. Like, I think about just keep moving forward and doing what you had. But if you'd asked me 30 years ago what a grandfather looked like, my personal stigma would have been older, not able to do back nine, whatever you're using now, whatever you want to say. And what surprised me the most is, I'm not slowing down at all. I get more passionate about this stuff every day. I get more excited to do it. And so, that has surprised me.
And that's the thing, in our work, we do a lot of, human-centered design workshops with residents, 80s, 90s, hundreds, same energy, creative energy, as I see with people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. And that's just really inspiring for me in aging. That creative energy, that zeal and all that doesn't seem to die within us,
Totally.
which is a real hopeful story. So getting to that though, question 3, is there someone that you've met or someone that's been in your life that has set a good example for you in aging? Like someone that's inspired you to age with abundance?
Yeah. So I don't know if there's one person, but I think if I had to pinpoint, it's family, right? So I was really fortunate to be very close with all my grandparents. And they were family first people. Like that was their life. It was all about family. And they came from really different sides. Both my grandparents came from different sides of the universe. And one was an entrepreneur and grew a huge business. Another guy worked at, actually, so interesting story. So my first job was in a family textile business that my mother's father started. Fast forward, I went to Hasbro, and my father's father was a supervisor for Hasbro for 21 years. So I have
because both the Rhode Island, your Rhode Island family.
Both the Rhode Island, but think about it. I worked at both of the places that my grandfathers were. Like, how many people can say they worked, at where both their grandfathers were? I think it's really rare. So anyway, but in my life, when I look at what's important to me, and the first pillar and tenet that we have here is family first. So I have people of varying sort of, places in their lives, raising young kids, to people like me whose kids are grown and out of the house. And it's a family first culture. It's a family, so we're flexible work schedules. We do those things. That's been instilled in me by watching the family that came before me value family above all else. And it's what keeps me grounded. I'm going from here down to my parents' summer house, where this weekend there will be 30 of us, convened, 4 generations. And
we're filming this right before Labor Day, people.
Yeah. Sorry. We got a long weekend coming up. So sorry about that. But to me, that's the inspiration is can we keep that focus on connection and community moving forward? And I've just been so blessed to have unbelievable examples of my parents, my grandparents, and those around me. So I think we should all strive for that as we age.
Yeah, and Ted, we're blessed to have you on the show. Busy guy, grateful for you giving this time to us, sharing us your story. So much inspiration, and it just such a fun conversation. Many thanks to you. Many thanks to the Ruth Frost Parker Center, which is part of United Church Homes, which is the sponsor of this podcast series. Find out more about the Ruth Frost Parker Center at www.unitedchurchhomes.org/Parker-Center. And most of all, thank you to our listeners for listening to this episode of The Art of Aging, part of the Abundant Aging podcast series for United Church Homes. And we want to hear from you. What's changed about you as you've aged that you love? What has surprised you the most? How have you integrated play into your life? I mean, what does play mean to you? Share with us and share with Ted's team. And Ted, once more, where can people find you?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm blessed to be on this podcast, but also call you a friend. So thank you. And then joyforall.com, and you can find all of our products on Amazon and other retailers as well.
Terrific. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.